So hopefully, okay,
Oh, it
saying
says
we're
you're
now
live.
live.
It is flashing live.
Okay, and you can hear me fine and see me okay?
I can see you great, hear you great. How about
No,
my audio?
absolutely, absolutely. So, well, I want to thank you for coming on and doing this. I know you're a busy man.
I I had a great morning already. I got to do a Skype lesson with you, and then I had one of my students came over and he did a 2-hour private, and then had a very quick bite, and now we're here. And then tonight I have the pleasure of getting to go into town and teach for several hours. So
Oh, would you,
what a day.
just out of curiosity, what'd you do in town?
Pardon? Oh, so in town, that's where my school is. So in Honolulu. Yeah. So I live in
Gotcha.
Kailua, about 25 to 30 minutes from Honolulu itself. So I'm on
Okay,
the other side of the island, which is a little calmer and, you know. But
okay.
yeah, I know you're dealing with the weather. We're dealing with bad weather over here too. Yeah, it's like right now there's about maybe an 8 or 9 degree wind or breeze, and it's got to be down to maybe 75. So we're suffering.
So,
Sorry, Dean.
yeah,
Sorry.
75. Well, I tell you what, take the 5 off the 75, and that's what it was in the early morning.
Oh, can't imagine. Can't imagine.
Terrible.
Oh, yes.
But
Hey, what
but yeah,
Filipino martial arts? What
yeah,
are
I'm thrilled to have you on and all that. So I'm just thinking we're just gonna jump right into it.
let's go.
So I know a couple things you want to talk about. I have questions. I think some people also had maybe some questions
Yeah,
that
I
maybe
actually
they
have a
shared
list
with
right
you.
here. I have a list from several people right here I'll address. You want me to start
Okay.
with that or?
I was gonna maybe, if you didn't mind, kind of go into your background and all that. In other words,
Yes.
I have a general idea of your background, but maybe for some of those folks that are watching or will watch, they may not know the extent that I do.
Gotcha.
So I thought maybe if you didn't mind, we can go into a little of that. Like I know you were kind of your high school days, you kind of started with the academy, but you were kind of had conflict with school, baseball, kind of juggling all that. So was it in high school, the summer that you kind of went to the academy?
Yes. So I actually went to the Inosanto Academy. Actually, it was the original Kali Junfan Gung Fu Academy in '79. That was my first exposure, and so a friend took me over there, and I was blown away. But I was in school, and I couldn't actually go do the training yet. But I started training with my friend and some other uh, friends there. Started getting a little bit used to some of the training. I just loved it. Especially, I'll just tell you, my first night at the Kali Academy watching, I was sitting down and it felt very much like what I was used to, which was athletics. Everybody had sweatpants on or shorts, t-shirts. There were a few academy shirts, but no real uniform at all. And it just looked like athletics. They're kicking the shields, they're punching the mitts, they're moving around, put the boxing gloves on, they start sparring. Somebody got a bloody nose near me, and I'm 17 years old going, whoa, this is cool. But then the Junfan JKD portion of the class ended, and Grudan says, "Okay, get out the weapons. We're going to go Kali." And they go over, and there are always these weapons up on the wall. And you know how a lot of times, especially back then, martial arts schools would have all kinds of weapons on the walls, but they always stayed on the wall. Well, everybody went over
Yeah.
and grabbed them off the wall and started using them, and I was just dumbfounded. And I remember, I'm sure what it was. They were doing a lot of numerato and sombrata and such. And I remember watching, and I'd done fairly well in baseball and athletics and other sports. And I remember looking and thinking, I will never be able to do that. There's just no way I'll be able to do that. And I mean, the grace, the movement, of course, Guru Dan out there just blazing away. And so I was able to start the following summer after high school was over. And I got started. I was horrible. I had absolutely no aptitude for a lot of it. I could kick a little bit with one side, the other leg I couldn't kick with. So that's where I got actually started in 1980. Actually joined the academy.
So what year?
And
So were you a senior?
I had just finished my senior year, so it was between senior year at Carson High School
Okay.
and my freshman year at USC.
Okay.
And
So when you went to USC, did you go back there for the summers?
just in the summers, every summer I'd go back to train. While I'm
Okay.
at USC, I didn't realize it at the time, but I had a little, I guess I could have had a clue. I'd be studying, and I had this box. Actually, it was the box that my vinyl Everlast boxing gloves came in for the Kali Academy. And in that box, I had the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and I had a couple other books. I had some magazines, and I had it up on the above the closet in the dorm. And I'd be studying my biology or chemistry or whatever, and I'd kind of look up there and see that box. And before I knew it, I'd say, "Okay, just a couple minutes." I put my studies down, go up, grab it, and that's what I was really most interested. But it never dawned on me that I could actually do that. And then it was at college maybe 3 years in, I believe. And I was just having a talk with a guy that was older, and he had graduated and come back for architecture. And anyway, he says, "Well, if you could do anything in your life,
Yeah.
what would you do?" I said, "Well, if I could do anything, I'd just do martial arts, teach martial arts, but I can't do that." And he looks at me and goes, "Why not?"
Huh.
And it's the first time it ever dawned on me. And then later, a few years later, I had the pleasure. I got to be training partner of Mark Makita, who was actually teaching me probably more than being training partners. But he taught me, and then we'd train everything together. And one
Okay.
day, Mark, who was making his living already, this is later. This is about 85. He's already making his living as a martial artist. And I somehow brought that up too. Wow, I wish I could just do this all the time. And he says, "Why don't you?" And that's the one where all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a second, it's really possible. Here's Mark. He's making a living. He does martial arts all day long. That's
Yeah.
what he does. That's what I want to do. And I'm like, wait, there's someone right in front of me that's not Guru Dan.
Right. It's doing it.
That's doing it. So yeah, I'm very, very thankful to Mark and
So
of course to Guru Dan.
so right off the bat in the academy, you got exposure right away to FMA. It wasn't like you had to jump into another class. Was it kind
No,
of everything kind of thrown in the mix per
it
se?
was part of the same class. They do
Oh,
Kung Fu
okay.
and JKD, and then toward the end of the class, we'd get the sticks out, and we were doing at that time it was probably a lot of Sarada, work some Sinawali drills and such. So, but it was every class we would do Filipino martial arts as well.
So when you're jumping in there and all that, did you right off the bat, did you have an affinity for FMA or like were you just captivated off the start?
Yes. The first time I saw it, like I said, I thought I could never do it, but I was totally enthralled. I was just in, it was like magic to me. And I just hit a chord and I loved it. And of course, as I continued, the more I trained, I loved it more and more and more as I went on.
And
And
it
of
just
course, because of Guru Dan,
yeah.
I've just been able to train with so many different people. He's constantly bringing people into the academy. So you get exposed to this wide variety of top level Filipino martial arts
Oh
guys.
my gosh.
And then he's always pushing you out to go, hey, there's this guy over here. I remember one time, I think maybe I was an instructor. I'd just become an instructor with him. And he says, hey, it was one of the rare weekends he wasn't doing a seminar. And he traveling for a seminar. And he says, hey, there's a guy teaching a seminar this weekend in Orange County. Do you want to go with me and be my partner? And of course I said, no way. No way. No.
Yeah. No, I got a bunch of conflicts going on. I just
Yeah, I
can't.
got some TV to watch, and no. So we headed out there, and I'll just never forget that. He's so humble, but it's so intelligent. He told me, he said, you have to know how to ask the questions. A lot of people, they're really good, but they don't know how to give the information. They're not good teachers. So you have to know how to ask the questions, number one. And number two, you can't go, oh yeah, I know that. Or they'll just go, oh, okay, and they won't teach you anything. So a great example is at that seminar, the instructor was teaching the snake disarm, right?
Okay.
Number one, snake disarm. How long had Grudan been doing that, right? Forever. So he didn't just go, okay, yeah, okay, do it a few times, I got it. He waits for the instructor to come near and he goes, oh, excuse me, like this? And literally, and he got the guy to show him one little thing that was a little bit different, and he was so happy. But if he had just, they're like, oh, you got it? Oh, yeah, boom. Okay, good. But he actually wants to know the minute details of it. And because he's humble and because he's not showing off,
right.
People are, very apt to give to him.
Okay.
And
so
what's one other thing on that, what was very interesting is when I went to Manila the first time, when I got to train with Tatang Illustrisimo and Christopher Ricketts and Tony Diego and the whole crew, I had that Edgar Sulite is the one that told me where to find them. I said, I'm going to Manila. Who should I train with? And he said, go train with Tatang Illustrisimo, who told me where the park was, and a whole funny story about that. But I go, and I was very aware because I had learned a lot of Illustrisimo system already from Grudan. So I was very familiar with a lot of the fundamentals and the movements.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to act like I know this, but I would do the move, and to their credit, the way the culture, their way of teaching was, as soon as I got something, then they would give me the next thing. They held nothing back, and they wanted me to get it as fast as I could. They were like, look, you're only here for a few weeks.
Right.
We want you to get as much. And I got the videotape. I have lots of hours and hours of video of Illustrisimo and all, and Tony Diego and such. So it's just interesting that you will get certain people. They're like, hey, we're not afraid to.
Right.
Actually knows it. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So going full circle, I try to give whatever I can. I don't keep any secrets. I give whatever I can. If somebody,
that's for sure.
Just try to do our best.
No, that's certainly on point and fair. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so
better way to do it.
All right, so you're in the blend and all that, and during the academy and all that, was there a particular, because I understand the blend is a compilation of different styles and all that, depending on what he was into that point in time, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe what he would emphasize. But generally speaking, though, it is compromised a bunch of different styles kind of fused into one, which I guess is referred to as the blend. Is that accurate?
I would say that's accurate. It's just that there's not a box that the Inosanto blend fits in. It's very much alive and changing and evolving and ebbing and flowing. So, for example, what I realized after years of training, I had I lived in abject poverty. I lived in a little tiny camper trailer where I could touch both walls. I'd sit on the bed, I could touch both walls. And at the end of the bed, I had about 3 feet to the end. So, I mean, it's a trailer you would pull behind a Volkswagen.
Tiny.
And so I lived in this thing for 5 years, and it was in the parking lot of a dog and cat hospital. So I took care of the dogs and cats at night in exchange for being able to live there. And they had a shower up in the front and all. And so that gave me the ability to just train all day because I had to make just a little bit of money. I just had to make enough money to pay for classes and to eat. That's it.
Okay.
And pay for fuel. So I had to work very little, and then I could just train. So I trained. I was in 18 classes a week with Grudan. 18
Wow.
or 6, I think 16 a week with him, and then 2 with Chris Kent on the weekend. So
Okay.
I mean, I was at every single class Grudan taught, whether it was at Inosanto Academy in Marina del Rey, it was IMB Academy, daytime and the nighttime classes, and at the Harbor College where he taught 4 classes a week. So I'm saying that because I really got to see how he was teaching and all. And over the years, it became clear that a lot of times when it came to Filipino martial arts, he was he would work our basics, and then he would teach what he was working on at the time. So he would help hone his own skills and help him to teach it better and understand it better. So there was a time when we were doing a lot of Pakiti Tertia. Pakiti Tertia, stick and dagger, spotty daga. And we'd do that for a few months, and we learn these particular drills and patterns and such like that. Then we'd go, boom, we're doing larga mano, right? And we'd be doing that for several months. Then heavy on La Costa, right? And La Costa seemed to be throughout. There was always this thread of La Costa Kali because it was just it's incredible and so wide.
So if there was one system that kind of overlapped decades, it'd be fair to say it was that.
It seems to me, I mean, this is my interpretation,
Yeah.
but at La Costa Kali, it seemed we were always doing some portion of La Costa Kali along with other things. Just La Costa goes from empty hand all the way up to the staff. You know, everything in between, from the sword, stick and knife, spear sometimes. We did a little bit of spear for a while. The sword and shield. I mean, just it's really so all-encompassing. Panantukan, silat, all of these things are in the La Costa system. So there's always some flavoring of La Costa in there as well.
So far as within that description of the blend and all that, was there a particular, I know you overlap in the decades, but with everything that you were exposed to I definitely want to get into the Illustrisimo aspect, but pre you going to see Edgar and obviously going to Philippines, was there a particular style before that or weapon that you preferred more or that fascinated you more than others?
I like the stick, I think, because I was a baseball player. It was like a baseball bat. So I was very comfortable swinging that stick. And then I did, as time went on, I enjoyed knife sparring a lot. And then I really liked, in that period where we really got heavy into Pikita Tertia with the stick and dagger. And then, of course, we Doce Paras stick and dagger. But that interplay of long and short and how it all goes together. Yeah, it's just, really
no argument here.
Right? Yeah, really amazing. I will mention, too, that in 1990, or late 89, I think it was 1990, I went to the Philippines. So I went to see Illustrisimo the first time in 94. I went to the Philippines in 1990 just to visit for a while. And I was able to, I'll tell the story real quick. I had a problem with my teeth. And as you know, that cost money, and I had no money, or I had very little money. So by 1990, I was able to actually start making some money. I was teaching some classes and all, so I had a small income. So I went to a dentist. Basically, I needed a root canal and a crown or something. Oh. And he said, it's going to be $600. That's back in 1990. And I thought, I have a friend whose mother is a dentist in Manila. It'll cost me about $600 to fly to Manila and stay in the dorms at UP Diliman. So I did that instead. So I could spend a month in the Philippines and still get 2 weeks, right? So lucky, right? But, my nickname's Lucky Dog in the Dog Brothers. I got the name Lucky Dog. And this is an example. So I go to the building. Now, Manila is huge. It's sprawling. There are millions and millions and millions of people there.
Yeah.
Right? At this time, there's no yellow pages. There's, of course, no internet at all. So the only way you can find someone to train with was later, 4 years later, Edgar Solizzi saying, go to Luneta Park, walk around Luneta Park, and see if you can find Tatang. That was the best you could do. So there I am in Manila in 1990. I'm going to the office building where the dentist is. At the bottom floor to the right was a gym, and it said weightlifting, this and this, karate, da da da, Arnis. Like, Arnis? Well, I'm going to go and poke my head in there after my appointment and see what's happening. So I go to my appointment, I finish, I come down, I walk in, and there's a bench just inside the door, and there are like, I don't know, 5 or 6 old Filipino men sitting there. I'm like, huh. So I went up and found somebody in charge, and I said something about, oh, I was wondering, is there anybody who teaches Arnis? I saw the sign and all. And they said, oh, you're in luck. Right now we're having the meeting of all the masters who are going to have students in the tournament this weekend.
Oh, geez.
So Lanada is there, Roberto Labaniego's there, all these guys are right there, and I got to meet all of them. Just totally, I guess it wasn't by chance; it was somehow meant to be. And Roberto Labaniego, who I had never heard of, I don't think many people heard of him.
I tell you, I never heard him until from you.
Yeah, well, he was so kind that I made the decision. I'm gonna try to train with him. So a few days later, I'm going out to the slums, like way out in the slum, pour down rain, and went to his house, and he trained me and trained me and trained me. So kind, so amazing. If you get a chance to see Bert Labaniego, Grandmaster Labaniego, do his thing, it's phenomenal. The body mechanics, and he's the one I asked. Let me tell you this story. Guro Dan talks about how, I think it was 7 of his instructors. He had so many different Filipino instructors up in Stockton and all. The first lesson was, they'd say, here, hit me here, angle 1. And he'd hit, and they'd step back and smash his hand with a stick, so that he would totally understand how valuable that is. So you wouldn't be a headhunter. You would know, oh, the hand, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And he tells a story, too, that one of the times, it's already happened several times, and the guy goes, each time he's a new guy, he's like, okay, hit me here. He's like, oh, God, here we go. Suck it up. Ooh, right? And not all of them would hit the hand, but again, a guy went smash, and Guro Dan said he's on the ground, fetal position, like curled up, and the guy says, you see, if I didn't do that, you wouldn't believe it would hurt like that. And Guro Dan said, I was thinking to myself, I would have believed you.
No, hey, if I had the opportunity to choose, I think I would.
Right. So now here I am in the Philippines, in the slum, in a little tiny area with this man, and I've got a stick, he's got a stick, and here it comes. He goes, here, hit me angle 1.
Oh,
and all this stuff
no.
is flashing back, right? I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. Oh, and I put it out there, and he went block check and went, boom, he turned his body so much, comes back, like, so unbelievably fast, powerful, and the stick literally went zoop, like half an inch from my nose. Then he says angle 2. I hit him angle 2. Wow, boom, like unreal speed and precision again, coming right in front of my face without hitting me. And then I realized, oh, I'm going to be okay. But after our lesson, which lasted several hours, I asked him, how do you develop that body turn, basically the body mechanics? And he goes, oh, yeah, softball. Swinging a softball.
Wow. Oh, and that would have been the last thing you would have, thought of as an answer.
Exactly. I'm like, hey, that's right up my alley with baseball.
Oh, my gosh.
So I just brought that up because he was also, and still to this day, is a big influence on a lot of things, like certain ways of blocking, the precision, the body mechanics. He has here, let me grab a stick.
Sure.
Okay, I think you might be able, everybody can see this. This is my my Victor Gendrano memorial stick. Victor, wonderful guy. Get your colon cancer screening, because unfortunately Victor found out he was really sick, and he was gone a week after he went to the emergency room. 1 week later, gone. So, good old Victor. So Labaniego would do something like this, where he puts the stick right behind his head. Now, if you see that, right, you think, well, I'm just going to hit him in the head, because what do I have to do to block? I have to bring this all the way around and then come over to block, right? I mean, that's a long way to go. You're going to beat him every time, right? Well, he knows that. And what he does is he roof blocks like that.
Okay.
Is that tricky, right? So he goes like this, drawing it. Then he goes, whoop, bang, and he just rips that.
Okay, I was just going to ask. So he was more of an attack by draw. Okay.
Totally attacked by drawing, 100%.
Okay.
He's just, they're threatening a heavy strike, daring you to hit him in the head. And when you do, he just goes, boop, up. There's my roof block, and he comes down. Beautiful.
Yeah, because when you think about it, I mean, it looks, I mean, from initially you're like, wow, I would never do that. But if you look at the short distance traveled,
right, it's the same distance as starting here and coming up, and it's
exactly, yeah,
right. But it's because it's behind your head. You don't.
That's what it is. It's that initial look that's back here, and you're like, whoa, yeah.
Yeah, try that in sparring. It's fun.
I think that's going to depend on who.
Right, they're going to be wise. They're like, no, Dean's up to something.
Yeah, he's up to something. So, just okay. So you're at the academy, all that. You're doing that. Dog Brothers. How and when did that come into play? Where you were actually like one of them?
Okay, so it wasn't called Dog Brothers. Mark Denny came up to me one night. I trained Mark privately in C-Lot and all, and he came up to me one night and he says, "Hey, you like to spar?" Because I would go to tournaments and do tournaments, and I think I was the only one at the academy that was doing it at that time. And so Mark comes up and goes, "You like to spar? I have a friend who likes to spar. Would you want to spar with him sometime?" I said, "Sure, no problem." So at that time,
I know this story.
Right? That's what happened. So Eric shows up, big guy, right? And I'll just go over it briefly. Some of you have probably heard it before. But basically, I was used to either using soft sticks and headgear, or would get all padded up with all the, the weak calf padding, big helmet.
Oh, kind of the Dose Perry's?
Yeah,
Dose
Paras.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
And so all that gear, but then use a light rattan stick that wasn't padded. Well, you had to be careful with all, that light rattan stick. You had to put all that padding on, right? So we were going to just have headgear. I think I have an elbow pad and a knee pad maybe. And Eric goes, "Oh, do you mind if I use this stick?" And he's got a big, thick, honking stick, right? Big thing. I'm like, "Oh, no problem. I have one similar." So I went and got my big stick. And I'm thinking, man, we are going to go light. I was disappointed a little bit because I thought, oh, with this, no protective gear, just the headgear, we're just gonna go so easy and light.
Mm-hmm.
And so right before we started, Mark Denny comes up and he goes, "Just gonna give you a little bit of advice." I said, "Okay." So I have no idea what I'm getting into, because if people knew, they wouldn't do it. So Eric found out he had to trick people into fighting him, right? And so a lot of times he'd only get them to fight him one time, but at least he'd get a fight, right? So Mark goes, "Okay, this is my advice." He goes, "Hit him because he's going to hit you." And I remember thinking, I mean, that's what sparring is. I didn't get it.
Yeah,
that's it at all. I mean, hit him.
Yeah, you're like, isn't that what's going to happen?
Yeah, that's always what happens, right? So we get out there. I'm ready to go really light, and he takes this massive rip of a backhand at my head, and I somehow deflected it or something. I didn't get hit with it. I'm like, right? We're at full attention here, right? Then he fakes up, comes down and whip. Oh, actually, I'm sure I did not have a knee pad on, because he took a rip at my knee. I did a lot of hand and leg sparring, so I was very accustomed to moving my leg out of the way of the leg shot. So I moved my leg and went ripping by, and I'm thinking, this guy's trying to break my kneecap. Now, so an intelligent young man would have said, "Oh, time,
Yeah.
Not a good idea. No life insurance, no health insurance, no insurance whatsoever. very bad idea to do this. Thanks, nice to meet you, right? But of course, the ego or whatever's like, oh, I can't quit. I can't quit.
No, I know,
So
right, right.
so it was 2 minute round, and he ripped at my knee several times. I remember, and the whole thing, and basically, basically he wasn't really able to hit me, but I did not mount any offense whatsoever. Like I was so shell shocked. It
Yeah.
was totally defense. Like, oh, whoa, whoa. It was just a totally different experience, even though I had fought in tournaments before. And so the thing's over, and I'm thinking this guy's a psychopath, right? There's something wrong with this guy. And the round ends, and he takes off his helmet, comes up, gives me a big hug, and goes, I was trying to hit your knee. I couldn't hit your knee. All happy.
And you're thinking like,
I'm like, what is wrong with this guy? But what a pure scientific way of testing things. And I tell you, the whole drive home, for days it was just going in my mind over and over and over again. This whole experience, which was just so different. And that's why I did it again and again and again and again. And I have to tell you, the first time I didn't know. So I got suckered into it. After that, I never wanted to do it. I really did not want to go do it. But something inside was like, you got to do this. I mean,
well, good on you, because I tell you, how many people would be like volunteering, like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna go run and go do that.
Yeah, there were some that enjoyed it. Eric liked it a lot. There was a few guys that really liked that feel of getting in there and doing it, and I didn't at all. I didn't like getting whacked in the shin at full power with a heavy stick and all that sort of thing. But wow, that was a pivotal experience that whole time. And then later it became known Dog Brothers, and I was Lucky Dog.
So,
but
so did you like when you were doing pre-Dog Brother term? You actually were still around when it became officially Dog Brothers?
yes, so it was actually I believe it was that Rumble at Ramblers, the first one they really put on film, that like a big weekend meeting out at a park in like almost partway to San Diego from LA, close to San Diego. And they set it up. Mark had all the cameras out there and all, and there are all kinds of guys out there fighting. And I think if I remember correctly, the story was there were a couple guys with the same name of Mark, I believe. And so I think that started. And Mark, I think was it the Conan series or something? There were the Dog Brothers, but there was some. I think it was a comic thing. So Mark Denny liked this particular thing, decided to call us Dog Brothers, and gave everybody a name that had something to do with the dog. It started like that. It was just a few guys at the beginning. Actually, at the beginning, he gave 11 guys a dog name, and then his dog Zapata was the 12th dog. So there would be 12. And that's how it started. And then Mark turned it into Dog Brothers Martial Arts Incorporated, or whatever it is. And so he went that way, and he did his thing. So, brought a lot of exposure. But the main thing is like, hey, what happens when somebody really tries to whack you with a stick? Okay, we have 5 million techniques. Can you do any of them when someone is hitting you and there's fear involved? Fear of actual injury. It's a totally different thing. Somebody holds the stick out for you, okay, that's one thing. Somebody spars with you, soft stick, going at a light pace, another thing. Heavy stick, minimal protection, and you can get something broken. It's going to hurt really bad. Now you have to deal with courage, how to handle the fear and be able to step in when you feel afraid, but still step in and do your thing. So it's really valuable. I highly suggest anybody that does Filipino martial art, you don't have to go to the Dog Brothers, but I'm telling you, it's dangerous. So it's all, I mean, if you decide to do it, I'll just say that for me and people I know, the experience of doing that will make all your Filipino martial arts more real.
I've done it right. I've done it. Yeah, no, I absolutely won agree with that because you get that real life experience and knowing that that you came out and you were dealing with some pretty heavy blows coming to you and you walked away not necessarily maybe you didn't you got hit and all that but you left intact you know
Right.
you know
Right. Yeah,
so
exactly. So,
yeah so
because
then
here's one thing
what's
I'd
that? Oh,
like
go
to get
ahead.
across is, everybody in the Filipino martial arts, instructor to beginner, learns how to deal with an angle one, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, here we go. Angle one comes in, and you go like this, you do this, you do your different things and all. But you know what? Because of the dog brother experience, and then other, fighting after full out outside of that particular group, um, you know, this, whoop, that's not an angle one, right? An angle one is when someone's ripping it at full speed and full power at you, and you have to
Mm,
deal with the power. And that's one of the things Eric was trying to get across to everybody. Eric Noss, Top Dog, is uh, you first have to deal with the power. If you cannot deal with the power, then none of your stuff's going to work,
no, when that thing's come flying in, yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
but really important. And then if we could, because I know time's running here, we talk about sparring a lot, right?
yeah,
And Battlefield Collie is based on sparring. It's not let's do techniques and then every once in a while we're going to spar.
right.
It's
No, no, no.
let's do techniques and then test it out in sparring to make sure we can do it. And if it doesn't go the way we want, you can go ahead and work on the technique and get it better and better because we know it works in sparring because we've done it in sparring. And so the students need to come along and then get their own experience to be able to actually use it. It's like, if you give me a computer that has, let's say Photoshop, right? And and you want me, you go, hey, here's the computer. You have everything you need to do incredible work with Photoshop, right? Well, I don't
Yeah,
know how to use it. I have the
yeah,
computer. I don't know how to use it though. You have to get in there and get experience to be able to actually use it. Like, oh,
sure.
here's a
No, it's a good
technique. I know that
analogy.
technique. This disarm, that disarm, that disarm, that disarm. Uh, hey, can you actually use it against someone that's going 100% at you? So
In full power.
full power. Yeah, not everybody wants to do uh, heavy rattan stick with minimal padding, and I applaud you because you're intelligent. but uh, but you can still spar safely. You can go full speed with a
Yeah,
soft sticks, good equipment. You can go full speed, and if you haven't done it before and you've done a lot of Filipino martial arts, at first it might be intimidating. You might go, "Oh man, I can't do any of my techniques. Forget that. I'm going to go back to my drilling." But
yeah.
I'll tell you, you can end up doing most of the techniques in sparring if you do it long enough and you get the timing and the feel and know when to apply it.
Agreed. No, that's good stuff. So, okay, so going from the Dog Brothers and all that. At some point, you cross paths with Edgar,
Yes.
who more and more I understand about him. To me, he was Bruce Lee of Kali.
Oh,
Just
he was amazing.
just the way he fused and scrapulated and pieced from Caballero, Illustrisimo, Bikiti, some of the minor systems. I'm not well versed with you. I mean, you met the man and trained with him. You train with him, and then he obviously refers you to Illustrisimo, and you go over there. So what meeting Illustrisimo? I mean, besides being incredible and experience all that, like what was he like? Like he's
Yeah,
like an icon.
that's interesting you say that because he was quiet, just pretty much unassuming. Especially when I met him, he was in his what? He was late 80s when I met him, and he was very unassuming, thin, just there. And then he starts moving, and it was just
Yeah.
magic, right? Just magic. You start to hit him, and he's already hitting you, not and just so efficient, just right, just this incredible efficiency. But he really
Uh,
was. He was just unassuming. He was kind. He was gentle, even though this guy, did sword fights. He cut people's heads off and all this.
Thumbs.
So yeah, right. To him, he had a mode where, hey, it's time to you know slice and dice, right? But he was very gentle and laughing a lot when drilling with him, or he's drilling with Tony Diego, with Christopher Ricketts. A lot of laughing, having fun. He
Laughing
showed
because
me
when he was
things.
hitting them.
Pardon?
Laughing when he was hitting them.
Exactly. Especially he'd hit every once in a while. He'd hit Tony Diego in the groin. He'd go whoop like this and actually tag him, and Tony would buckle, bend over like this, and he'd be laughing, moving his sticks, waiting for Tony to come back. And but very joyful, and very open to share. And I understand in his earlier years, he didn't want to share with anybody. It's like, this is what
I mean,
this is what
again,
saved my life.
you met those
Originals.
guys, but from what I read, I guess Diego almost had to like court him for like a whole year
Yeah, right.
before. And if it was, I tell you, you know what's interesting? Imagine if it wasn't for GM Tony's efforts, whether or not there would have been what we call today Illustrisimo Callis. I mean, our system, like,
It,
would have happened, you know?
it may very well have died out. There were other people, right? But you know, for some reason, he was able to really bring him out. And uh, I know Romeo Macapagal also lived with him, did a lot with him, Yuli Romo and all. But
Yeah,
I'm just thankful for all of them. I mean,
yeah. Yuli
because
was the second, from what I understand. Yeah,
well, it
but
was
like you
just
said, I mean,
amazing.
like if they didn't pound on the door, literally, who knows? You know?
No, exactly. It'd just be wouldn't be around. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's so valuable and so deep. It took me many years. So I went over there for 3 weeks. Well, I went over to do a movie. So I had a week of training. Then I did the movie, and then I extended my trip another 2 weeks to train. And I also got to train with Tony Diego many evenings as well, besides
Mm.
Tatang and them at the park, and Tony and Christopher Ricketts. Then I went back 2 years later with my friend Levi Busanich, and we went over there and trained for another couple weeks. But it was just very, you know, it was really amazing because there was something
Yeah.
different about it. I'm lucky to study with a lot of people. There's just something different. And so because I videotaped and I'm reviewing these things over the years and looking at them as I matured as a martial artist and understood things better. And I mean, from everything, jujitsu helps me understand Kali better, and kickboxing helps me understand Kali, MMA, wrestling. And it's like, oh, okay, I started to understand just how deep it is and how genius a lot of it is. You know, just the intercepting all the time, the intercepting on the preparation, and then everything factored in. All the follow-ups that the other guy could do are already factored in with the footwork and the body angulation and where the stick is, where the hand is,
Mm.
and it's really brilliant. It's fortunate to get to train with somebody that actually had actual sword fights.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
so I know you went based on like the exposure you were getting at the academy, whether it was Regino, Illustrissimo, and from Dan, and I know from Edgar, but like after, like, what really made you, like, as far as sword edge weapons, think that Illustrissimo was it? Was it due to maybe your style, your physique, your length? I mean, was it all the above?
Well, I do want to mention, like, say, Leo Hiron's system.
Yeah.
Amazing sword system. I mean, it's just so efficient, battle tested. Recent Leo Hiron fought sword against sword.
Right.
Also, there were several guys. Sam Tendencia. I got to train with Sam Tendencia. Maybe I don't know. I'd say actually he training with him one on one maybe 5 times, and then he'd come
Mm-hmm.
to the academy sometimes, show me a little something outside class. But again, another bolo fighter, and I mean there are a lot of amazing systems. It just seems that the Illustrissimo system has more breadth to it, different ranges, different. There's a different thought process. His thought process about basics is okay. You don't go, okay, this is the basic, now this is the advanced. To him, it's all the same because it all depends on where you are. If let's see, Let me grab this.
Oh,
Yay. So this is a Sansabar given to me by Tony Diego.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know, it's just precious to
Jeez.
me. But
Beauty.
generally, if angle 2 is coming in, I would block like this, or you come through. You're not going to purposely try to come up and go behind it. That is very difficult to do. But Tatang's point was, well, if you happen to be in the flow and you end up here, guess what? This is the most efficient move you can do. As a matter of fact, it's probably the only one you can do to save your life right there. You don't have time to get the point up. You don't have time when it's all the way over here. You don't really have time to come back and do a wing or a roof. Tips out, you have to come up. So to him, it was like, you need to know everything, because there may be a time that you're out of position.
Yeah.
And then what's going to happen when you're out of position? When we're drilling, it's easy to always be in position. But in fighting, especially against more than one person on uneven terrain, you're going to be out of position. They want you out of position.
Yeah,
Right?
you just hit on something. I just want to expand on what you just mentioned. I've never heard so much detail put into position, reposition, out of center, regaining center, all that. As much of that terms and all that net usage, never than an Illustrisimo system.
Yeah, I would. For me, it's the same. There may be others out there. Maybe I missed things, but it's very, very pertinent in the training. It's emphasized that exactly here, 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 here.
Just again, like you were with the first lane and all that, but just from, Abenir reference, you and David Gould, like just emphasis on that. Okay, regaining center mass. I mean, just never.
Yes.
And I'm not saying other systems don't do it.
Right.
However, up into my journey at this point, I never have heard it being emphasized as much.
Well, the first place I ever actually saw the concept really was in Guru Dan's Filipino martial arts book from way back in the either late 70s or early 80s. I think it was late 70s. And there's a drawing. At one point, there's a picture where he's swinging, and it's a big sword from the side, and you see this whole arc of the sword, and it goes out, and there's a drawing that has it come back called the shortened arc. Okay. And that's all about, right, is swinging and pulling it back so you're back to position. Come back to position. Back to position. Yeah, it's very, very, very important. Which, let me show you this.
The edge weapons is going to bring out, of course, that discipline.
Yeah, or you're dead.
Or you're right.
There you go. But a lot of it, I mean, how do they practice? Sparring. Lots and lots of sparring. When I went to Manila, when I trained with Illustrisimo, I sparred over there. Second time I went, Christopher Ricketts picked me up. Next morning, right, I got in, they picked me up. He and Tony Diego picked me up at the airport, went to the hotel. Next morning, picked me up, went to, with Levi, went to an office building where Christopher Ricketts had a workout area.
Okay.
And I'm jet lagged out of my mind. I'm in street clothes, right? And then pretty soon I've got the sticks in my hand. We're drilling. Pretty soon I've got the helmets on, and I'm sparring with Dodong. I'm sparring with this other guy, newspaper writer, and this and that. And like, you just spar it all the time. And that's, if you watch, we're so fortunate to have video of Illustrisimo sparring, right? Thanks to Christopher Ricketts getting us on video. And you watch and you see expert sparring at long range. It wasn't, okay, he's just kind of swinging the stick. It's so expert. He's doing triple feints, going up, to come in. And you only need to do multiple, compound feints when? It's when you have a very, very good partner who's hard to hit.
Remember we talked about this?
Right.
Remember, whoever that Sultan's bodyguard was, that guy had to be incredible for Tatang to want to go or experience with 3 levels deep far as fakes. That
That's
guy
right.
had to be. We have to find that.
Yeah, who is that guy?
We got to find that family.
Yes, because you know Tatang was famous for his the recta where you just go boom, right, and just
Yeah.
quick shot, and I mean that's what you do to somebody you're much better than, right? You manipulate the distance, right? Get where they don't realize you're that close, bang, and you just hit him, done, like he did in the sword
Mm.
fight in Indonesia in the match. And but against somebody better, you have to feint, fake, and then go to the hand. Well, he had compound feints where he's going up, up, and then come back down the other side and
Yeah.
hit right, hit the one side and then back down the other, or
Right.
clear and come back. But then he goes fakes toward the hand, comes up, and then comes back down the other way because again, obviously he was sparring against great guys, and when you watch him spar,
Oh, had to
it's
have.
just
Had to have.
such beautiful sparring. I mean, yeah, phenomenal, just phenomenal.
Yeah. I have definitely more like what time, just so I have an idea kind of how much time do
We
you
should
have? 'Cause
probably go about another 10 minutes. How about I answer a few of the questions people wrote in?
we're gonna have
How
to do
about
a
that?
part two if that's okay with you.
Fine with me.
Because some of the
So,
questions I have as far as like, not to give it away, well, actually, wouldn't maybe they'll definitely, I know I want to get to the questions people ask in fairness to them, but just stuff that I'd like to cover in part two would obviously be more than what we're currently talking about and your experience over there, but also for new people seeking functionality in the bridge and sparring, what advice you would give them, your future outlook on FMA, and an interesting thing on Sabrata and the checking hand I want to get into, but we can get in, I mean, next
yeah, we can do
time.
that next time. Yeah.
Sure.
So let me just go over a couple of these real quick. So Tobias Ricker in Germany, he asked to talk a little about Sifu Richard Bastillo, who was, when I started at the Kali Academy, one night would be Guru Dan, one night would be Sifu Richard. And what, amazing, amazing
God,
person,
what
Sifu
a
Richard.
major dilemma that was, huh?
Oh, it was tough. It's just, gosh, lucky dog, right? I lived a mile and a half from the original Kali Academy, right? It's right there.
Gosh.
So what I would say briefly about Sifu Richard was he was a fighter. This guy's a fighter. He is most interested in fighting. So as he got older, he would show more of the quote the art or some ideas and all that, but his whole thing was about fighting. So he's a boxer, and I'll just tell you, I hope this doesn't shock anybody or like, oh, what? Um, when back in the mid '80s, you know, he started a Kali class at the IMB Academy that he was going to teach. So Guru Dan was teaching all these, but on a different day, he was going to start one. And I went up to him and I said, "Oh, hey, Steve, I heard you're starting up a Kali class." He goes, "Yeah, I really don't like to teach that stuff, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it because." And he was like, "What? What?" He didn't like teaching a lot of the techniques that he liked to have people spar a lot and this and that, right? As he went on, I think he understood this, like, oh yeah, well, I'll give you, just because we don't have a lot of time, I'll put this in a nutshell. First of all, I think all how generous he was and how fun loving and just Hawaiian, right? Just so
Yeah.
much fun. Um, when there was a time before he passed away several years ago, when I was I'd go boxing at there's a place called Palolo Boxing Gym, famous in Hawaii. So boxing gym, and I'd be sparring in there, and I was able to start pulling off, like, for those JKD people out there, double pak sao, lop sao. I figured out how to do it against a boxer in full on boxing sparring, right? And it was all about setups and understanding the distance and when to do it, following a jab back in, all this sort of thing. Okay, right. So when I saw Steve Richard, I said, hey, because I knew he wasn't in the early days. He really didn't like to do the trapping. It's like, why
I'd
trap when
heard
you can
that.
just
Yeah.
whack him in the stomach, right, or hit him with a cross? And I said to him, I go, I'm actually, I'm not bragging. We're just talking shop. And I'm like, yeah, the Palolo boxing gym where he boxed some when he was growing up, said, I'm actually pulling off some of the compound trapping, like double pak sao, pak sao lap sao. And he looks at me and he goes, yeah, because you know how to fight. And so I think that encapsulates his whole thing. It's like, learn how to fight, do your sparring, become a fighter, understand how fighting works and the basics of moving and dealing with actual pressure and all that. Okay. Then, as your skill develops, you can start inserting other things that you can't until you develop the fighting
until you have the foundation. Good.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So beautiful, right? Paul Clark asked about goal setting in martial arts and tracking your progress. Paul is awesome. I'd say, goal setting, you can set goals to be an instructor. I'm not pushing it, but for example, in my Battlefield Kali, we have levels. And we break it down. So you do the first level. You're focusing on, like, for example, in Battlefield Kali, whether it's stick or knife or sword, you focus on hand sparring, only hitting the hand. And you do a whole bunch of things in there to understand that. Then when you pass that level, you go to hand and head sparring. Those are the only targets. Then hand and leg, and then full sparring, and then you can go for instructorship. So some things are tough because it's like, well, without any levels, how do you set a goal? What's my goal? So this is what I tell you in the more traditional. When I say traditional, it's fighting base. Traditional is the sparring, doing a lot of sparring. That's traditional Filipino martial arts. Just doing drills is not traditional. That's modern. Yeah. And it's not as functional as the old. So I would say, okay, this is how I'm going to set a goal. I'm going to see if I can fake and hit my partner in the leg, right? And I keep playing with different feints and how to set it up until I start hitting him in the leg consistently or getting it in. Okay, I reached my goal. Okay, now I'm going to see if I can work that, start the backhand, make him block, and then evade it and hit the angle one. And just, that's how I would set goals, is like just saying, because basically I'm going to work on this technique until I get it. And then you can pull it off in sparring consistently.
Oh, no, that's...
people. Then boom, then you go in. Just one thing about goal setting in general in your life. It's very easy, January's coming up, to go, I'm going to set a goal. I want to be this weight by this time and all. Okay, that's a good thing, but really it's the habits, it's the actions you're doing that's going to make the difference. So instead of just thinking about what the end result is, which is good, you can visualize that, get a good picture in your mind of it, but actually I call them cyclical goals. I came up with that thing. I think it's been very helpful to me. I said, my goal is to, like, say, do cardio 3 days a week. And I try to do cardio the 3 days that week. Then if I don't do it, a new week starts, I get to start all over again. I don't get 3 months in and go, oh, forget it. There's no way I'm going to reach my goal. Because the goal resets every single week. So instead of just thinking about the goal itself, you have cyclical goals and say, hey, I know if I do this 3 times a week, I'm going to get to where I want anyway. So my objective is just to get the 3 training sessions, the 3, whatever it is, or 5 or whatever it is in a week. And then you can reset if you don't get it. So that's been very helpful for me because I did not have good discipline and I had to develop it. Hey, Daryl Goldberg, talking about the effectiveness of FMA empty hand combat. Because a lot of people think the art is just weapons, and you can really translate the empty hand. I would just say, usually, like anytime I'm in the Philippines and I say, oh, can we do some empty hand? They say, sure, let's do empty hand. And then say, the guy, like, for example, here, I'll show you something empty hand. Then he'd hand me a knife or a stick. It was always against a weapon.
Oh, right? So never just, oh, really? Interesting.
No, there's panantukan, which is the boxing, sikaran, which is the kicking and all that.
Yeah.
But empty hands was like, well, you always assume they have a weapon. Why would you get in a fist fight? If we're going to a fist fight, then I'm going to get to my knife. I'm not going to go trade blows with somebody.
Not to go off point, but where do you think, did that become more of a Western thing then, far as the...
I think because people in the Western world did not carry weapons and all, and they wanted the empty hand. And
Ah,
the empty hand
okay.
portion is so amazing. It's like, hey, let's look at the Panantukan. And again, Lacosta took Panantukan boxing and mixed it with Southern Philippines silat and
Yes.
created something, as Guru Dan says, a whole new animal, which is amazing, and a lot of really good stuff in there. But
Huh,
I just,
interesting.
I think most people think empty hand. Everybody goes empty hand. In the Philippines, usually, let's go empty hand. Okay, well, it's against a knife or a bolo
Right,
or something.
right. Huh.
Anthony Ballisticon asked about solo drills. I just say making sure it's real. If you're hitting a bag, hit something,
Yeah.
but don't just hit it. Move in, hit it, and move back out, just like you're sparring. Move in, hit it, and move farther into the clinch or to disarm. Treat it like it's alive. And if you're stroking in the air, very important to keep edge awareness. You're not just kind of slapping it and
Yeah,
flapping
just
in the breeze.
random. Right.
Edge awareness. So you work your accuracy. If I'm swinging in the air, I pick a point somewhere on the wall and I try to cut through it. So I work my accuracy even though I'm not actually physically making contact with anything. Check out this blade.
Let me see.
This is a interesting old blade. You see that?
Oh,
This
yeah.
is actually given to me by Tatang Illustrisimo.
He
And
gave you that?
yeah, this is a samurai cavalry sword, a Japanese cavalry sword from World War II that's been cut down, and they made a little bit of an edge here. They somehow it got cut or was broken or whatever, but they
Wow.
made it down more to single hand
Yeah,
size.
yeah, like almost Zanzibar-like with the guard?
Yes, very much. Kind of handles kind of broken up. But I looked it up,
Huh.
and this is actually was a I think it was officer or cavalry issued in for World War II Japanese.
Was it
Uh,
gifted to him, or did he remove it from?
oh, see, I didn't get the story. I was so thrilled that I was getting this
Yeah, you're
thing.
like,
You think I would have, I have some video of him swinging, moving around with it. You would think I
gosh,
would ask him what the history was, but
I think
I
maybe you're
didn't.
right. Maybe it's probably maybe a good thing you didn't ask him because then that could
Yeah,
have
right.
touched.
Well, I've got two more to go over. Rory from Dublin on Instagram asked why aren't there many other Filipino martial arts programs that center on sparring like Battlefield Collie does? And
Hmm.
I say,
Fantastic question.
good job, Rory. I think it's because most people equate sparring with fighting. And when we spar, that's why I emphasize safety. And I want people to go, especially at the beginning, go fast but light touch. If you go light touch, that means you have control of the weapon the whole time. You're not just whipping it and letting it go. It requires a lot of precision and really making sure you have control of that weapon.
Fast, light touch.
Then as we go on, then you can start hitting harder for those people who want a little more contact. But we can take people first day. The first day of class they spar. The first day of class and they love it. A lot of times people come in, they're a little timid. Had a young
Mm.
lady just start recently, and you could see she was in this class. She's in college, freshman in college, all these adults, and she's a, you know,
Yeah,
nice young
overwhelming.
lady.
Yeah.
And we got to the sparring, big smiles because now you're free. You're not
Yeah, she got out of her
this.
system.
Yeah. Now you're free to do whatever you want. You get
Yeah.
to actually express it yourself and play the game. Imagine if you went signed up for baseball and you just did baseball drills,
Oh, I'd be
for
bored to
9 months
death.
and you never played a game, right? Yeah, the idea is to play the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's why, Rory, because people just go too hard. It's like nobody wants to do
That was
this.
a fantastic question.
Yes. And last one I have here, David Goodrich, how to translate the art and cultural training into self-preservation training. So, kind of like I was talking about Sifa Richard earlier, if
Yeah.
you actually do the sparring, over time, when you get really comfortable in sparring, you can see better, you can anticipate more, and then you can go, well, this isn't cultural. This is actually, if I'm here, I can stick the guy in the eye and I can actually do it. Same with the stick work. I didn't do a vine disarm in sparring for maybe 20 25 years of training Filipino martial arts, I never did a vine disarm on
The only
sparring.
time I ever did was your variation.
Yeah, yeah. And then one day in sparring, I happened to get a hold of the stick.
Yeah.
I'm hitting the guy's hand to try to make him let go. He turned to yank it out, and I did the vine without thinking. You know, all those thousands of repetitions, it just happened. I just did a vine disarm. But then after that, I could do it. I could repeat it often in sparring. You know, if I get in that situation. So a lot of the things, this is what I've learned as I got older, right? The more you spar, the longer you go, a lot of things that seem are just like cultural. It's when does it work? And there are times when it actually comes up, and it not only you can do it, it may be the thing to do, like talking about that
Yeah.
backhand sort of block.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Also, I want to say one last thing before we close.
Sure.
You know, Filipino martial arts so broad, you know, and it's very much individual type based. You know, it's about the individual. It's not everybody's got to look the same and all this. It's very individual, and you can see that reflected in the blades. So, for example, here's a sansabar, right? That's the one I looked at earlier. Look at that blade. Okay. All right. So you might have that. In a similar region, you might have something like this that actually has a guard. This is Japanese, but there are Filipino
They have the guards
also that have the guard on it, right? Okay, then we have like Tausug. We have something like this. Look at the handle on that, right?
Wow.
And see this?
How beautiful.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Right? This is a pira, right? You take this out. Look at that, the shape of that one.
Oh,
That's
okay.
a totally different blade with a different balance. It just feels so light in the hand.
I've heard the name, but not very familiar with it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really it's a chopper that you can really move easily because of the balance.
Southern?
Right? Southern Philippines, yes, Tausug tribe. So, I mean, I'll just end with this. There's a famous saying. Well, I don't know how famous it is. There's a saying in Kali that's beautiful. It's this is in Tagalog. Ano ang Kali? What is Kali? Ikaw ang Kali. You are Kali. Ito ang Kali.
I like that.
This is Kali. It's about you. It's about you finding your own way.
And your journey. No, I like that.
Yeah, right. And it's through sparring. That's how you find your own expression, by actually getting in there playing the game.
Well, this has been
that went fast.
Fantastic. You know what's so funny? You're so right. Like I'm talking, I'm looking at, I'm like, okay, we're already 30 minutes in and I have like 6 more questions.
I know, right? We'll do another one.
So is it fair to say we can get you on part 2?
Actually, yeah, we might need a few more because I have a whole bunch of subjects to go into and show different blades.
I would be I'm totally into that. So the more the better as far as this goes. So I would thoroughly enjoy, and I think as everybody else would. So
okay, if you guys want it, I'd be happy to.
Oh yeah, we'll do it for sure. So
all right.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
And I'll be in touch. If I don't talk to you, happy holidays.
Thank you. Maligayang Pasko at Baong Taon. So, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope everybody has a great time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right. Aloha. Beautiful.
Okay. All right. Just going to wrap up. Just want to say, whoever is interested in coming on and doing this is great. What we're finding out is if you have an Apple device, that is definitely going to be, this Be Live platform, unfortunately, is not really compatible with Android. So please keep that in mind, but you can reach out to me. I plan on, getting as many people as possible on here. So if you have something you want to talk about or share, I'm more than willing to hear and listen. Again, though, the reason why we want to be live is because Facebook Live removed the guest option. So hence is kind of why we're here. So, and this one worked out pretty well. I did have problems though when I was trying to do Tim Gillette because he had an Android. So unfortunately, they said they're working on it, but they gave no time frame as far as when that would be, they would have a remedy for that. So I will give you guys a next guest, and thank you all for that watched. See you next week.